Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very special webinar today. Welcome, welcome. As you are joining, please go ahead and put your name and location in the chat so we can see who's on and where you're all calling in from. And we are very excited to gather with you here today. So I'm Jocelyn Mercado, founder of Sacred Planet, and I'm here with Vera de Luz Celestial, founder of Divine Timing Coaching. And we are announcing a very special new initiative from Sacred Planet today, which is to bring in paradigm shifting teachers from all around the world in 2021, straight to you, the Sacred Planet community, and to our extended global community. And so the very first of these teachers that we're excited to present is Vera de Luz right here. And let me pause for a minute and welcome you all. So welcome Dolores in Ireland, welcome Teresa in California, welcome Maya in Hawaii, Teresa in Michigan, Gabrielle in Oregon, Adrian in Ireland, Valeria in Italy, welcome, Rosemary in Vermont, Erhard in Denmark, Denby in Texas, welcome, welcome everybody. And I know everybody on this call is feeling called to be a part of what we're creating for the next generations, right? You might be a parent, a grandparent, an educator, or just someone who is very interested in what is happening with our education, what is happening with the way that we're parenting, raising our kids, and the star children that need our extra love and support, right? So thank you all for being here. Let me introduce Vera de Luz, as he is bringing you a really powerful, very important presentation today. So Vera de Luz is a traveler to 40 countries, the author of 2 books, Codex of the Soul and Aquarius Dawns, and creator of the Divine Timing Online School. And he uniquely blends systems of self-awareness such as astrology, human design, and shamanic therapies into his holistic life and business coaching practice. Vera de Luz teaches entrepreneurs, families, and couples how to honor and integrate their core patterns and archetypes. And he empowers clients by helping them strategize the when and where of life, optimal time mapping, astrolocality power places, as well as the who, harmonic relating in love, business, and also in families, which we're going to talk about quite a bit here today. And so his presentation today is going to be about evolutionary parenting and revolutionary education. And I know you're all going to love what he has to share today. So Vera de Luz, it's interesting for us to be talking about parenting and families in relation to astrology. So it's something that we don't see a lot, right? Astrology is focused on, finding love or, maybe doing well in business, these different topics, but this is really unique what you're bringing. So could you tell us a bit about it is important for all of us?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that when I first started studying astrology 14 years ago, I knew that this was an area that was really neglected in my own life growing up. And I also knew that this was something that we really needed to integrate into the astrological world, the astrological vocabulary. Once I saw how quickly a chart could represent all of the key psychological components in who we are, from relationships to how we learn to our emotional patterns. I just wondered, where was this growing up for myself, for my family, for our generations, and we have this just laser pointed map for all of these different ways that we behave and all of our different soul potentials. And so I've really wanted to, and I have over the years, taught on this subject quite a bit, but I've really wanted to develop a more systematized training for a long time, because I just, I have, I'll just share a little bit about, my own journey with this topic is that I didn't really have what I needed growing up education-wise in terms of what I saw in my chart and who I've become, especially as a musician and as an artist, and also with my love of nature. And a lot of that is written into the core parts of a birth chart, my sun sign, my Mercury, which is how we learn. And I realized that even though my parents gave me a good education, private schools and all of that, and they had the best intentions in their heart, it wasn't really the education that I needed. And that is really written into the script of the human design chart and the numerology, all these systems I work with and others work with. And so I, it brought a little sadness to me to realize, wow, like what could have been in some of that development, right? Early on from the very beginning. And so I just realized that this is something that I have a particular mission around. I want other children to get these tools, and I want other families to get these tools. And so far, when I've shared this with clients, it's just been such a journey of, kind of a humble gift for me to share this. And it's so empowering, especially like when I worked with high schoolers or college age kids too. And they light up when they see themselves reflected by someone who doesn't have an agenda. And it's been just really powerful and something I'm extremely passionate about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I know when I, originally met you, you were teaching on an astrology forum, and I was really moved by your passion around, how do we create the new world, right? And how do we use these tools to do that? And then especially as related to children, because I have two young children, and I think it's such an important topic that you're bringing up here for these times that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I remember one of the conversations we had early on when we talked about Sophia's chart and some of the soul contracts that you shared and like the things that you felt, but it gave a different language. I think that was the way that you put it, a different way that you could approach your relationship and how you could work together. And I don't know, I think you could speak more to the effect of that, but I know it was really, powerful to start to integrate some of that and see those reflections and then be able to refer to that over the last couple years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really powerful. And with both of my daughters knowing, their kind of astrological blueprint and knowing and seeing that reflect in how different they are. Sophia and Lily are so different. Sophia has a lot of Virgo and Capricorn. Lily has more Libra and Scorpio, and they're just so different. And knowing that their mode of operating comes from these archetypes, it's extremely helpful for me in relating to them and teaching them and helping them, on how they see the world, right? How their perspective is different than mine or different than each other. So yeah, really powerful.
Yeah, I feel like it can help with a lot of the acknowledgement that each child is really seeking as an individual, and sometimes children, we all remember being a child and being like swallowed up by adults and what's happening, and sometimes not being really honored or seen. And if you can call out these parts of a child's birth chart and their script, it can really help them like step into their power from an early age.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that, as I mentioned briefly, and I want to go into this a little more now, I think it's critically important at this time on our planet what you are bringing forward here. And so I'll share a little bit about my perspective on that, and then I know you have a lot to share with us today to enlighten us and help us to move through this in a much more powerful way, in a way of understanding our other family members much more deeply. So I think one thing that's happening in our world right now is that, especially as parents, we're really feeling that we're having to give up control in a lot of ways. And I know for me as a parent, that actually starts very early on. Like if we are following what the medical system wants us to do, we have to give our children, so many vaccines from the time they're first born. It's scary, right? Or that's quite a controversial topic, right? But those vaccines may not be good for our children, et cetera. And now in this time of coronavirus, we're seeing lockdowns, especially right now, January 2021, we're seeing curfews, right? We're feeling this on a global scale, but then at the same time, we're all collectively facing this question of, do we need to get a vaccine? right? Do we need to have a vaccine to travel? And do our kids need the coronavirus vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, in order to go to school? And then we are, we're losing our freedom in these other ways too. And so the kids now being home from school, being educated at home to a large extent, we're finding out some of the gaps that might have been missing, right? Because we had kind of been trusting the educational system, trusting the government or the state or whatever to be educating our kids in a certain way. And now that they're home, we're able to see, wow, my daughter really wasn't what she's getting, what she needed in this realm of, of her schooling. Or I see that maybe my son or my grandson or whatever, really needed more support in this way. And now I can see that. So I feel like we've been moving through this space of feeling like we're not in control in a lot of ways. But we have a huge opportunity right now to take back that control. And the tools that you're going to offer today are so powerful for allowing us to step back into feeling our power. And really become educated about the ways that we can help our children get what they need. And even within our family units, maybe my co-parent and I will learn something from astrology to be able to better work together on parenting, right? Or maybe, in addition to just learning about our kids. So this is a huge opportunity you're offering to us, and I'll turn it over to you now to share a lot more. But I feel it's a critical time to introduce this material.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thank you so much, because I don't know, I feel like so much emotion around this just with my own family, and I don't have my own children, but maybe I could share the screen here, and then I'll start. We're going to start with the meditation here today, but let me start by let's see, Joss, maybe you can make sure that this is working for everyone.
Yes.
And it's a picture of my family. I'll put it on the big screen here. That look good?
Yes, looks good.
Hear you, Jocelyn. Well, yeah, so I'll just share for a couple minutes. And maybe some families will relate to this. It's like my sister had her fourth baby this year, Cameron. And wow, what a year it's been for my family. They live in San Jose, California. California is one of the hardest hit areas from the coronavirus. And there's been multiple heavy lockdowns. My mom and dad, most when I've seen them over the last 9 months or 10 months, they've had masks on. They didn't want anything to happen to the kids, and a lot of fear going on in the family. And my mom's already a fearful person, but it's been really hard. Cameron has a heart murmur, some other things going on with him. They couldn't be there for my sister's birth, because of the virus. Really difficult, and it was a lot of kind of danger in the fourth birth because of placenta previa previously, some different things like that. And then of course, they had to stay at home, and you had 4 kids in this pretty small house with Alan and Jen, my sister and brother-in-law. And it was intense, really, really intense. And I know that a lot of families can relate to this, of how they could juggle, all of the energy and not lose their minds, right? And they, it's been very hard for all families, I believe. And my parents are amazing angels. They're grandparents who really, like the old tribes, they take care of the kids and they basically babysit them. So then coronavirus came in, and they couldn't really do that right away. And then they've had to wear masks, and it's been such an intense journey. And then my dad actually recently fell off of a ladder. He was in the hospital for about 10 days, 2 weeks, just went home. He's been dying to see the kids. But again, nobody could visit him. It's been really hard. And this is, one example of a lot of families in the world right now. And so what I'd like to do today is take this quote from G.K. Chesterton: "Education is simply the soul of a society as it passes from one generation to another." And we are in this big time crisis in our society and what the soul of our society is. And I believe that the soul is really written into the scripture of the stars. We all give that to ourselves when we're born. And we're going to talk about that today and how every family can be responsible for understanding and learning the basics of our star scripture to support our families and our kids, and that maybe we have a bigger reason why all of this is happening. And it's really asking us to really see the individual souls of these children and how much light they come to bring to us and the whole planet when we need it the most right now. And so what I'd like to do is, before we start our meditation, I always like to call on, but especially right now, the goddess Saraswati. Saraswati is prayed to. You could see her image in all when I was in India, all of the different classrooms, and they do her mantra. She's the goddess of wisdom and music and knowledge. I find it interesting as well that music, is one of the areas that's been really neglected in education. It was when I was growing up. And yet it's primary, with the goddess of wisdom and knowledge, Saraswati. And also we'll see an Egyptian goddess as well, who was really strongly connected with music. And this might be part of it, right? That we need the arts to be more emphasized. We need creativity to be more emphasized rather than memorization, right? And different kids have different gifts around this, right? So let's take a moment, and I'm going to chant this mantra 3 times. You can follow along if you like. It's Om Aim Saraswatai Namaha. Just call on the goddess or the god of wisdom inside of you, the god of knowledge, the god of learning, the educator and teacher in you. Om Aim Saraswatai Namaha. Om Aim Saraswatai Namaha. Beautiful. And I'll just show you here in this next slide. This is, I'm still in Egypt right now. It's been quite the journey, a few more days here, but it's been such a blessing. But I wanted to show you this picture with Thoth or Jehuti. This is the ibis-headed god here. Behind here is Horus, the god of resurrection, the risen sun. And but here I am with Jehuti, who is my kind of arch god in the Egyptian pantheon. Because he is the goddess of knowledge, wisdom, writing. He's the scribe. And here you see Thoth holding the Ankh, the tree, the key of life, and here it is as well. And he's with Ma'at over here. Ma'at is the goddess of justice. And this is the famous weighing of the heart ceremony, which is always talked about in terms of when we pass over. Is our heart as light as a feather? I wanted to show this image because of the connection between education, wisdom, and knowledge, and the connection to justice and balance and harmony in a society. And we could easily argue that a lot of the challenges we've had in our society, and especially in the West, and especially in the United States, have a lot to do with the fact that we have completely devalued education collectively, put all of our money, most of our money into things like weapons and the military, right? And we just have this completely whacked priority. Or we have to have students and their families invest hundreds of thousands of dollars and take out loans to go to college. Instead of, as in other countries, the schooling is free, or we really support that education because we know that we're dependent on the next generation to grow. This is, I feel, written into the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Here we have Thoth with his scribal quill pen here, and then he's followed by Seshet. Seshet is sort of a companion. She is the keeper of the sacred records, even the Akashic records, which record all of our soul's deeds throughout lifetime. She's always pictured with a star above her head, and she is very connected with the astral, the celestial wisdom, and the idea of how we are accountable. Literally, she was the great accountant, how we are responsible for our actions in the world and for the knowledge that we bring to the world. So this is one more image, and it's the picture of the Dendera zodiac. I went to Dendera, it has all this epic astrology on the walls, talking about the cycles of the year and of the great seasons, which we call the great year, the precession of the equinox. But you can see all of the Gemini and the Taurus symbols in here, the Leo, the Scorpio. But we know that the ancient Egyptians, thousands of years ago, were practicing astrology with the stars, with the constellations, and we can bet that they were using it in their education. And this is society that, was relatively peaceful for thousands of years and endured and is still enduring, through the temples and through the cosmology today. We have a lot to learn here. So, all right. So we have a lot to talk about here today, but before we do that, I want to start with a meditation, and it's connected with Ma'at, which is the weighing of the heart. And I want to get us into our hearts as we open into what we want to share with astrology and human design and these tools. So I want to invite you to close your eyes and just take a deep breath. And this breath is a breath we want to bring down from the skies, from the heavens, on the inhale, and bring it down into the heart, and just let the breath, hold the breath, let it rest into your heart for a moment. And I want you to connect, when you're holding that breath, with your own inner child. When you need to, you can exhale the breath, but exhale it down to the earth. So you're bringing that celestial wisdom down into the heart that we're going to share here today. You're sending it down into the earth, grounding it into form. And take another breath, and now bring the breath up from the earth into the heart, the temple that you are carried in, your soul is carried in, the sacred body, and send it up into the heavens, and send that inner child light out to the world. That's the solar child. The sun is living in your heart and in your breath. So connect with your own inner solar child and send that light, that radiant light, out to the world. And as you do that, just tune into the fact that we have a new moon, full moon in Leo tomorrow. Leo rules the heart. Leo is the child in each one of us. So now take another breath, bringing the heart into union with the sky and the roots of the earth, and bring them into your heart. And now send your inner child light out to all the children of the world. Feel them from all nations, from all walks of life. And breathe in their exhalation, breathe in their energy into your heart. And now send out the next breath to all the parents of the world, all of these grandparents, these families, these aunts and uncles and cousins, all of them who have suffered so much this year. And just feel your heart open, the heart of compassion. Take another breath from the stars, from the roots into your heart, and just feel the empathy, the love for all those who have experienced uncertainty and anxiety, poverty, confusion, and fear this year. And from this place of the open heart, I invite you to send healing, to send patience and understanding, to send possibility on your out breath, to give these families, these kids, perspective and the possibility of something new and innovative arising right now. Because something is erupting in the collective. It's something that the souls of our children have asked for, and that the world is demanding, that the parents, the grandparents, the guardians, the teachers, the educators, it's demanding that we change. And what we need to do is invite in the unique spirit of each child to shine. We need to recognize the soul contracts that we share with our young boys and girls, with our teens, with those facing issues around their gender and their sexuality and their friendships and their career paths. All of these issues we face as we grow up. We really need the language of the soul. We need cosmic vocabularies to connect with the higher selves of each child and every family and all the children of the world. So connect now in your next breath with the heart. Feel these new vibrations coming in during these Aquarian cycles that we're in. And know that we've been gifted ancient wisdom languages like astrology and numerology. And we've been given a brand new system of genetic wisdom and insight called human design. These systems are here to open us up to the unique patterns of love that each child has come to share and the mission of entire generations. We have come to be more responsible as guardians and parents and grandparents and educators. And maybe you've meditated on this. I've been thinking about imagining the oversoul, like the collective spirit of the next generations, the teens, the tweens, the toddlers, those just going to school for the first time, the infants, the oversoul. Maybe we could argue that this oversoul asked for the coronavirus to bring families back together, to regenerate and renew and rebirth education and bring education into our own hands as parents and teachers and educators. Moving out of standardized education into individualized education, and from mechanical schooling to the schooling of the spirit and the soul. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I'm going to share the screen again with you. And all right, so welcome back. Just take a few normal breaths. If you've been taking some deep breaths and holding in and just staying connected with your heart, staying connected with the spirit of the children and the families of the world. So just let me know, maybe someone in the chat, if you could see it says evolutionary parenting and revolutionary education at the top here. You good? Awesome, thanks, Gabriel. So Ken Robinson, one of the great educators of the last 2 decades, says the fact is that given the challenges we face, education doesn't need to be reformed, it needs to be transformed. And so what I want to share with you here, what kinds of educational programs and curriculum will best support my child? How can all adults, guardians, and children communicate more smoothly without tension? Supporting our primary emotional needs of the children. Rites of passage we'll go through. How can I learn not to project my own life challenges onto my children or my grandchildren? And about the optimal disciplinary techniques for my child. So, I'm going to show you this pretty quickly here, but some of you may have heard these terms like star children, the indigos. Now that's a little bit older now, but crystal children, rainbow children, the next generations that have come in are wired completely different. They come into the world with a feeling of royalty often, or deservedness, but also a sense of healing. They have psychic gifts and insights, right? You feel like your children are reading you sometimes at every moment. It's like, whoa. Self-worth is not a big issue. They often tell parents who they are and refer to themselves in more spiritual terms, and even talking about past lives and alternate realities. Now, in astrology, we have a script for this. We have something called the South Node of the Moon, which shows us a lot of our past life dynamics. So very powerful, right? If we can nurture that, if we can actually say, my generation, my parents would have not let me own that information, right? But now we have to say, what are they bringing back from these other places and times, right? Maybe they're not past, maybe they're parallel lives. Let's play with it. There's wisdom there, there's messages there. These children are messengers. They also have difficulty with absolute authority, right? That means authority without explanation or choice. They won't take it. They get frustrated with ritually oriented systems, right? Like things that don't require creative thought. They often say, see the better ways of doing things, and they'll say it, right? Both at home and in school, and they don't want to conform. So a lot of kids are busting systems because, again, we need a completely new paradigm. And they seem antisocial sometimes unless they're with, people that they resonate with, kids they resonate with. And so sometimes they'll turn inward, or feel like humans don't understand them, right? Some of them are feeling like they come from the stars and they're very different. And lastly, they don't really respond to guilt discipline. I mean, that was big for me growing up. My parents, unfortunately, still use it with my niece and nephew. But that doesn't really work very well. It definitely works less for Madeline and Emmy, my nieces, than it did for us. Now, we also have these new challenges, not only with COVID, but with the digital age that we're in. The first thing with COVID is that these kids are in a world of anxiety and constant change now. The families are. We have to teach children to process fear and uncertainty with compassion and courage. We also want to create, not create separation, right? Because this pandemic is like, fear, be separate from each other, put on the mask. We have to be so careful with, quarantine and this whole idea and how we talk about it. And then we have the question of, if we have the option for in-person education, do we want our children at school, or is it too dangerous? These are questions that we never had to ask before. And then it brings up the question, do we need a more village-based model of groups of parents co-teaching or working with a freelance teacher? If so, right, well, how do we recognize the souls of the kids? How do we bring languages of like what curriculum to use? What kinds of practices, disciplinary techniques? That's where astrology and human design come in. What is the larger cosmic purpose, as we said, of COVID? Maybe it's supposed to change the entire educational framework and the whole family network. In the digital age, we don't need to memorize. We need creative problem solving. We need team collaboration. These kids are learning how to be socially inclusive and, gather together whatever race and class and caste and background you come from. And also how to learn virtually, but not lose the emotional connection, right? This is a big one because we're moving so fast here and the kids are wired that way. But if we have too much screen time, we may lose the connection with nature. So I want to talk to you about human design for a few minutes. I studied human design after being an astrologer for 7 years. It's a system that is determined by your birth date, time and place. Time and place are less important than in astrology, but I was skeptical to begin that journey. But wow, once I started to apply it in my own life, but especially with my family, I was absolutely blown away of how it validated the patterns of especially my mom, but everyone in my family. And it helped me recognize what they were working with, and sort of a vibration, a frequency of how they were working with it. It brought a lot of compassion and empathy. And, if parents, if children are open to using this tool, it can be very evolutionary and revolutionary because we can start to see our emotional nature, how we learn, our instincts and our intuitions, how we can make confident decisions in our life, because this is a language that's actually built around understanding our genetic gifts, our unique genetic signature. These are the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, which are actually corresponding to the 64 codons in our DNA. And when we were born, the planets are activating certain codons in our DNA. It's like we hold a certain recipe of the genetic soup, and our children do, and our whole families do as a composite unit. So this tool allows us to see that. Ra, who was the one who received the human design system, is a channeled system in the 80s. It's now practiced all over the world by millions and millions of people. Ra was a parent himself. And he says, I've always been involved in teaching young people, and as a parent, am deeply concerned with the healthy development of my own children. Human design and its basic truths and values are not limited to adults. Children have the capacity to quickly grasp their design. And they do. I mean, if you get into this with kids, especially if, let's say, hit around 11, 12, they can really start to grasp this material. But you can apply the wisdom of it to kids that are, 4 or 5 years old, 3 or 4 years old. once you know their energy type and how to speak to them, because it gives you a way to speak to and be heard. That's what's so great about both design and astrology. So here's what we call a body graph. And really design is showing us the uniqueness of who we are. Um, I really believe in my heart that this tool has come, since the mid 80s, because these generations need new evolutionary tools, evolutionary languages. I'm not going to go super deep into all of this right now, but we have these 36 channels of energy, which are combining the qualities of these 9 energy centers, the mental center here, which is big for how children learn. This is big for how they express themselves and communicate, the throat center, right? But not only children, us as parents, as uncles, aunts, grandparents, the emotional center, the willpower here, the sense of timing and structure and ambition here, the instincts and intuitions here. Let me show you this right here. This is a little bit more about the 9 centers. This is the big one here, the sacral, because this is the generator center in us. And it creates what we call generators or manifesting generators. That's energy types. But not everyone is an energy type like that. Some of us are projectors like myself. And these different energy types, there's 5 of them, they actually start to develop certain kinds of career types. And we can see that early on growing up. I know for me growing up, it did always feel like I was a little bit different than a lot of the kids around me and even my own family members. And once I learned about being a projector in human design, projectors are really built to be advisors, to be counselors or coaches or guides. They're not meant to work in the same kind of rhythm and intensity as others, like the generators who have that almost unexhaustible energy source. They can work all day until the end of the day. They are the builders of the planets. Whereas manifestor types, they're the types that are initiators. They're go-getters, they're visionaries, they're beginners, but they don't have that consistent flow in them. So when you see that children have these energy types, you can speak to them in a different way and support those types. When you see that they have one of these centers defined, colored in, or undefined, you understand that they have an ability that is consistent or reliable in them. Like if they have this mental center defined with a logical channel, their mind is very logical, right? But if they don't have this center defined at all, they're meant to learn in all of these different ways, communicate in these different ways, and not necessarily hold that information like a logical person would, right? Or the logical person, the kid, would be very different than a kid that has a more abstract way of holding information and knowing and learning. They just kind of feel into it, they sense into it, right? So you might have a child with a more logical way of understanding and expressing, and a child that's more abstract, and a child that has a completely open mind that's just like really flowing with the environment, but they get conditioned to be logical, or they get conditioned to be in this, sensory knowing, because that's what they're around through their parents or their siblings or other kids. And that's what makes human design so helpful, is that it shows where we get conditioned in these white centers to be like our environment. And that's where it can be really hard for us, because sometimes we try to be our conditioning. And human design is actually showing us that we're really here to be authentic to our genetic gifts, to know what we've come to share. And man, if you can share this with these kids early on and know how to live your human design from the very beginning, we can all be who we came to be. We have those genetic gifts. So it's really, really a tool for today's generation. Here's my niece's human design. And I just want to show you something real quick before talking about astrology, which is the difference between the 2 sisters, Madeline and Emmy. And this thing about projectors and generator types, because here's Madeline, and Madeline and I are both projectors. So I can get her here. And this brings up an idea of mentorship, that my mom or dad and her mom and dad are not projectors. So they won't understand this journey of like, I need a lot of quiet time. I need to regenerate on my own. I need more space. I can't live in the heart of a city. Like, this is a projector type of thing. Madeline has this going on with her. And if she, as a projector, can be acknowledged for some wisdom that she carries, we don't have to know where it comes from. We can if we study the design, but we have to, as parents or grandparents, my parents, they, if they can ask her, what do you think about this? Like, you know, should we go back to school, right? Or what is your opinion of this? Projectors love that because projectors want to be recognized. They want to know that their counsel, their insight can benefit the generators and the manifesting generators. So what that does is it gives her recognition and everyone benefits because she has these insights naturally, right? And as we educate her, we can see that she has specific insights. She knows that, like we'll say, Madeline she has to fight for something. She is stubborn. That's this channel right here. But it's like fighting for a good cause, you know? She needs to struggle for something, right? Now, she's also someone that brings something so unique to anyone that she touches, anyone that she communicates with. She can bring a lightning bolt going off in anyone, but she could also say something that's completely outside the box. And if she's not honored for that, she could feel like she's exiled or too different. So that's really important with the specific gifts that she has here. Now, she doesn't have the emotional center defined, but her sister does. So she has the spleen defined. So she's what we call a splenic projector, meaning she knows in the moment, because this is a center of instinct and intuition, what's right for her. It's like a flight or fight response. She doesn't have to overthink it or anything like that. She just knows. It's the body knowing. Whereas her sister, Amelia, Emmy, she has that center defined too. So she gets that. But Emmy needs time. Emmy has the channel of family, the channel of community right here. She is very connected to the family, very concerned with everyone in the family and how they're doing. Madeline is too, but it's not the same. This is actually where Emmy's emotional wave rides at high and a low. And anyone that has the emotional center defined rides an emotional wave. They ride an emotional high and low. And that means they take time to get clarity. This is a part of human design we call your inner authority. And with design, one of the greatest gifts is the inner authority. It's where an individual goes to find their truth, to find their clarity. And when you have this center defined, which is half the world, your truth is never in the moment. It's only after you ride the high, you get excited and enthusiastic, and you ride the low, you get a little bit tragic or depressed or uncertain. And somewhere you'll find that middle zone, which we call the moment of clarity, the neutral zone. And that's where you get that emotional clarity. And now you can say yes, or now you can say no, I have the energy for this, or I don't. So she's an emotional generator, whereas her sister is a splenic projector. Very different types of making decisions and different ways of running their energy in the world, right? And of course, this interacts with their parents in different ways, their grandparents in different ways. So there's all of these dynamics, and this is what we call creating composite charts and synastry charts, where two family members will come together and you'll see the dynamics at play. This is where it gets really exciting in both astrology and human design. So when we move forward, yes, Andrea, I offer this as a service, doing these charts, absolutely. And we're going to talk about this program coming up where you're going to learn a lot more about this. We got to talk about the astrological moon. This for me is the big aha when it comes to children and understanding our children, but not just our children. It's for the whole family to create harmony, because the moon is a child's emotional reactions. It's an adult's reactions from the very beginning. You might not understand or see the child's sun sign right away, but you'll see their moon. Because if I don't feel good, if I'm reactive, if I'm crying, then emotionally I'm off, right? Something is not supporting me. And that's where you got to go to the moon. The moon sign in astrology will show you how to create safety and security in a child's life. And in an age of anxiety like right now, we really need to honor every family member's moon sign and house and aspects. This is more depth and detail the areas of life and the other planets that the moon is connected with, but just getting the sign will go so far to help you creating harmony within the family and understanding on an inner level. It's how we are sensitive and nurturing to each other as family members, right? I mean, I'm a moon in Virgo, and growing up, I felt great doing really well at school, getting good grades. It's a Virgo thing. I like to be of service. I was very devotional with my energy. I was very spiritual growing up. I still am, That's why I'm in Egypt right now. But it's core to who I am. And my family members, I remember my aunt even saying, I mean, they thought I was going to be a priest, which is a very Virgo archetype. And I kind of am because I do a lot of shamanic work and healing work. But, again, our moon is it's so core to our tribe, where we come from in our soul, our who we are, on an inner level. And it's how we can create comforts for our kids, both physically and emotionally. It's also where we get triggered. Now, if we want to talk about education and building curriculums that support the individual child, we have to talk about Mercury. This is what I was saying, that in my own life, this is not something that was honored in me, because my Mercury is in Taurus. Taurus is a very sensual sign. Nature, music, dance, the arts wasn't there growing up at all. Mercury, you must create an environment for a child's Mercury, for their mind to grow in. It's how a child and all of us communicate. It's how we speak. It's how we, will we learn to read fast, write early on in our life, spell? Will we have challenges with that? Mercury will tell us all of those things. What if we knew that from the very beginning? What kinds of environments could we create for our children? How does one sibling learning style connect with another? Do they overlap? Are they completely different? Why did it work for this child, but it's not working for them? Probably because of the Mercury. So also, are they kinesthetic? Are they more emotional in how they learn? Like a child with a Mercury in water signs, like Cancer or Pisces, for instance, they learn through nurturing, nourishing, caring, raising, fish and dogs and cats and plants, being in the kitchen and helping mom and dad. Whereas a Mercury in fire signs like Aries and Sagittarius and Leo, they need to move that energy through them. They need to act, dance. They need to get out there and be in athletics, compete with each other, martial arts, get out there and hike. They need to move that fire. So if you're not honoring that, not only are they not learning as efficiently as they can, but the energy is going to get stuck and then probably come out in not very healthy ways. Like the Mercury and water kids will cry a lot, they'll whine a lot, they'll complain a lot. Mercury and fire kids, they'll create tantrums, right? They'll create a scene, but not if that energy is being honored, not if that fire, that water, earth, or air is really being acknowledged in them, and they're given the environment, the appropriate environment to do that in. And this is the thing with astrology, is that every sign of the zodiac is like a temple or a school of consciousness. There's all kinds of activities and practices and playgrounds for us to explore in those different signs. And that's what I love sharing with parents. Now, there are two very important planets in astrology for understanding generational themes: Jupiter and Saturn. They connect us to the social sphere, the social fabric. Jupiter changes sign every year. He just went into Aquarius this year. He was in Capricorn last year. And Jupiter represents how a year of kids will form a certain ethic. They'll learn spiritually certain concepts. They'll expand their minds and their hearts, and they want wisdom in a certain archetype, in a certain pattern of energy. It's the horizons of growth. It's where these kids will find possibilities in their life. So depending on what sign Jupiter is in and what house it's in, they have a real gift of growing their soul. Now with Saturn, they're growing something else. It's growing the capacity to mature themselves and to actually put in the right effort. Saturn's about discipline. It's about hard work. And this actually is a planet that takes 2.5 years in a sign. So you have this like 2.5 year journey where kids are learning how to structure their consciousness. Eventually, whatever sign Saturn is in, they're going to have to master that over the course of their life. So why not create environments that have more of a disciplined approach, where we work with time, where we build over time an ability to cultivate ourselves in that area. We don't create mastery overnight. We need to work hard at it. So wherever Saturn is, both by sign and house, in our next generation's charts, is something that we can provide these certain structures to build and develop and discipline and actually manage our time and our energy really well. And over the course of our life, become masterful. And every 7 years, the next thing we'll talk about here is, well, this is Alex Chenoweth, but let me mention her for a moment. This is kind of a hero in the movement of astrology and education. She was voted Teacher of the Year and outstanding service to astrology. She was given to that by a group of Indian astrology, an organization in India. She now leads an event with astrologers in India. She wrote a book called Growing Pains, Astrology and Adolescence. She's unique because she's a teacher in the classroom and she's an astrologer as well. That book, Astrology and Adolescence, is about Jupiter and Saturn cycles primarily. And it's something that I'm working with, studying, and we're going to bring into the training that I'm doing. But it's out there, right? And she's on the circuit teaching about these things as well. It's happening, but in a very small way in the world. And that's what we're trying to expand right now. One of the areas that I've studied for many years and that I wrote about in my first book, Codex of the Soul, is about life cycles, initiation cycles, rites of passage. Now, this is huge for the next generation. Now, all of us are going through constant rites of passage with the planets. The planets are teachers. They're like mentors in our lives. But when we're growing up, you can see that one of the first rites of passage we go through is the Mars return when we're just 2 years old. Mars comes back to where it was when we were born. So some of these rites of passage are when a planet returns to the birth moment or the birthplace it was. Some of them are more in a geometric formation, like with Saturn. The first Saturn square comes in when we're 6 to 7 years old. And then the next big journey of Saturn is 7 years later when we're 14, and Saturn is opposite the position it was when we were born, 180 degrees away. And then when we're 21, we have another Saturn square to where it was when we were born. And then at 28 to 29 comes that big Saturn return. So let me tell you for a moment, the Mars return. Mars is the planet of war, conflict, aggression, desire, passion, will. This is what happens when we're 2. We get our will, right? And so we defend ourselves, we go for what we want, we're creating temper tantrums, and it's really Mars. It's really actually a child is saying, if you learned, mom and dad, what sign and what house Mars were in my chart, you learned how to help me direct my will. What I should go for towards in my life. That magnet that's calling me forward in my life. That's Mars. So we can actually help that process. It doesn't have to be so bad. Ceres is the great mother, and she is an asteroid. Actually, she's a dwarf planet. And very importantly, she returns to the birth position when we're 4 to 5. Typically, that's when we now seek the parent archetype, Ceres, the great mother. We get the word cereal from her. We seek the parent archetype through now another teacher, or right kindergarten. We go to school, and now our world opens up. We create belonging around a community of other kids, right? And yet there's a sense of a loss. We lose, as kids, we kind of lose mom and dad for a bit. And as parents, we lose our kids. Loss is a big theme in the mythology of Ceres because her daughter Persephone was taken to the underworld by Pluto. And it's the whole journey of the cycle of the seasons in the mythology. So this is a very rich cycle, and there's a lot of meaning here. that we can interpret personally in a chart. Saturn is about discipline, as we said. It's about structuring our consciousness. What happens when we're 6 to 7, right? A child starts to learn how to write their own name. They start to choose their friends. They start to have responsibilities like chores, right? They may even earn some money for doing them. This is all Saturn stuff. They're becoming a member of society or the world. It's very interesting. They really start to form a sense of personal identity. That's Saturn. Now, when we're 14 to 15, we are in opposition to Saturn forces. Who are those? Adults. People that are older than us, cops and authority figures, Saturn forces. Well, actually, this was the time when a lot of indigenous cultures would do vision quests with the 14 and 15-year-olds, and they would come into their adulthood. And we've kind of lost that, right? And that's where we form gangs and all of these kinds of, pseudo ways that are really unhealthy for these cycles, which are happening whether we honor them or not. Um, if you find exactly where Saturn is in a young adult's life, you can help form exactly the kind of rite of passage they need to mature and master their energy at an early age in life. With Jupiter, when we're 11 to 12, we need a teacher or a philosophy or a wisdom tradition or an adventure that expands our world, because that's what Jupiter's about. We can't stay in this little tiny hole anymore. We need to know that there's a bigger world. So wherever Jupiter is in a child's chart, we can honor that. Now, the interesting thing is that these cycles repeat, right? So someone who's 35 to 36 is also going through a Jupiter return, like the 11 to 12-year-old. So you can actually mentor cross-generationally through similar cycles, or you can connect back to the cycles when you went through those. And that's how you can empathize and mentor the next generation. Lastly, I want to talk to you about soul contracts and synastry. This is the depths of astrology, why it's so beautiful. This is where we see the kinds of relationships we form with our children, or a grandparent and a child. What have we come to do with our kids? Here's my niece Madeline, and she just had a birthday. She's an Aquarian, but one of the things I noticed right away, with there's so much to talk about with her chart. I knew she would be reading at an early age because she's a moon in Gemini. Gemini is the mind. She's got a lot of mind, a lot of mental. See the air element here, Aquarius, tons of Aquarius and Gemini. Usually learning very quickly, extremely good in school, very intelligent. Definitely, she's reading at least 2 grades above her. She's 8 now. She has been for the last year or two. But a connection with my dad. My dad has been a primary caregiver of her, and they both share the moon in Gemini. But not only that, my dad, this is what we call a bi-wheel. And this is what I use with all parents. So right here, my dad is on the outside. His chart is rotated to fit into Madeline's chart. And so you can see that his moon in Gemini is nurturing, bringing support, which is what the moon does, to her Jupiter. Jupiter is how she grows, expands her wisdom, her spirit. This is what we say with Jupiter, right? So my dad can nurture all of that. And he's been primary teacher growing up for her. Even though she's gone to school, it's like he's brought all these new languages and information into her world. I share a deep soul contract with her because my son is on her south node. The south node of a child represents their soul history, what they know, their past lives. And when a family member has a planet like the sun on the south node, you can bet they've been around the block before, and they have a certain karma together, right? Depending on the sign and the house of that connection and what planet's involved. This is where it gets very rich. This is where you can see that a child often feels like they're the parent of the parent, and they will behave that way. It has to do with the nodes. It has to do with this past life karma. So we can do this with parents and children, grandparents and children, siblings with each other, right? We can connect this, and we can also create a composite chart. The 2 is 1, a parent and a grandparent, a parent and a child, a grandparent and a child. So in my dad and Madeline, together they're sun sign and Mercury, the planet of communication and the planet of creative expression, are in Sagittarius. If I saw that, in a client, I'd say, you guys should travel together, or you should study foreign cultures together, or read something spiritual together, because this is all Sagittarius. And that's how their collective mind and thoughts and how their identity would be built as a grandparent and a child. Yeah. But that's different from grandparent to child and child to parent. So our mission is to not only survive, but to thrive and to help our children do the same. The next generations need every treasure we can offer them. This is my mission. And I want to leave you with this quote: when you educate one person, you can change a life. When you educate many, you can change the world. And so this is my journey now. This is a program that I've wanted to share pretty much since I started astrology 15 years ago. And I'm really excited to offer this training, evolutionary parenting and revolutionary education. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Fair This has been incredibly powerful and again, just so deeply needed at this time. Let me share my screen here because everybody, there we go. We have something really exciting to share with you today, an opportunity to go way deeper into everything that Verdeluz has shared here so far. And so this is a program that Sacred Planet is very excited to announce in collaboration with Verdeluz Celestial, and he will be guiding this journey. And it is called Evolutionary Parenting and Revolutionary Education. So Verdeluz, I'll let you share more about the program. And actually, if you would want to share your screen and share this page, that might be even better because then you can move at the pace that you want to speak about it.
Yes. Okay. So let me do that. 1 second here. And all right. We are not in the best Wi-Fi situation in Egypt, unfortunately.
No, we're not.
But it's working. It's working itself out. All right, let's see here. Just, can you put the link in the chat again?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
there it is.
did. I
I
just
see
did.
it. Okay, cool. And cool. So let me know if it's loading here. So everyone can scroll down the page as well.
Well, I haven't shared the link with everybody yet, so we'll share with everybody soon, but I wanted to let you guide this part here first.
Well, so everyone can see the screen now?
Yes, we can see it.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Sorry, Jocelyn, I can't hear you. All right. Great, Gabriel, thank you. So this is the journey. Our children are the wisdom keepers, and we are here to guide them. We have it's a 2-month course, 2-month training, but it's 6 modules. And what we really want to focus on here is how we can navigate this time through COVID and give parents and grandparents and these families these emergent languages for soul growth. Now, this training is going to be focused on using astrology as a guiding principle for raising the next generation and using these tools every day of our life for education, for creating environments for the family to thrive and for each child to grow intellectually and emotionally. So you can is that this is all about self-knowledge. This is all about parents learning about themselves and about their families. And it's really about upgrading our families right now because we have to, right? It feels like COVID has really asked us to do this and that the universe is asking us to integrate these tools. So we're going to focus on astrology. Now, I wanted to bring in human design as well, which I introduced to you today, but it's too much for a single program. So this is going to be the first program that will focus on astrology, and we will be journeying into human design later. So they're, one system at a time, so you can implement these tools with your family. I share here again about my passion for the topic, which you can look at, on your own pace. But the main thing I want to share with you is how much the communication can grow as you bring this tool into your life. How you can look at the different generational themes and use time management much better. I know that's a big struggle for my family and many families right now. And I want to share with you the curriculum because we have these 6 modules, and we're going to start with the emotional harmony, which is the moon, medicine of the moon. So you're going to learn about your own moon sign, your partners, your children's, and how to communicate the bottom line emotional needs. This is the key to bringing safety and security to your child and to bringing that emotional harmony in the family dynamic. That's the first module. So being a more supportive and better listener and how everyone can do that in the family. Then we move into the mind. We move into how to give our kids the best educational environment, structure. Maybe they need a group process, right? Maybe they do really need to go to school. Maybe they need more homeschooling. Maybe they need to choose it on their own. All of that is written into the Mercury position. So we're going to talk about the different ways that we learn and how to create exactly the types of curriculum that will support these different Mercury sign and house positions through the birth charts. Now, it's also about how to speak to our children so they can actually hear us, right? In the 3rd class, we're getting into that Jupiter and Saturn experience, which is how we bring inspired expression with Jupiter and the structures of discipline with Saturn. This is what we were talking about: ethics, spirituality, soul growth, finding truth. That's the Jupiter journey. It's different every year, right? And with Saturn, we talked about discipline. This is about how we can start to mature our children, give them healthy responsibilities, and help them to time manage and help our whole family to do that so we can flow. So that's where we'll focus on the 3rd module. And then we'll look at class 4, which is cultivating compassion and consciousness. This would be generational themes. So this is where we'll talk about the outer planets as indicators of our soul family. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. This is more about how generations over time, every 7 years, every 14 years, every 15 years, they have a different collective evolutionary intention. So our journey as parents or grandparents, is different than our kids' generational journey. And this is a kind of way for us to understand the different imperatives of each generation over time. I'm being told to shut off my video here, so I'm going to stop the video share, or I guess I'll stop my video as a whole, but I'll keep talking. And then we have class 5, which will be thresholds of awakening. This is rites of passage. And this will talk about those cycles we mentioned, about Jupiter returns, Saturn returns, how each planet is an initiator of consciousness in a certain way. And what we're going to do with this is understand how you as a parent or a grandparent can actually mentor across the generations. This is specific rites, rituals, embodiment practices that you can do so that the next generation will grow, and they will be different on the other side of these rites of passage. And then finally, we end with soul contracts. And this is the guardians of evolution. This is where we look at the synastry, the connection between our different family members. We talk about karma, we can talk about past lives, we'll talk about how grandparents and children and siblings have these different threads between their souls. And then we'll see how we can move from the I, the individuals in the family, into the we. Who are we as a family? This is the oversoul of the family. And what bigger picture projects that we can accomplish together. And also to learn how we can not project our own challenges as parents or as grandparents onto children. This is going to be a really powerful 6-week journey, and it's a seed. It's a seed because my bigger vision is about creating utopia on this planet, and I believe that we do it by educating the next generation. As above, so below. We have a sacred star scripture in the sky that's been with us for thousands of years across every culture, the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Indians, the Romans, the Greeks. It's been everywhere. And we've been asked again and again to integrate this into the next generation. It's finally time. Coronavirus is asking us for a change. The kids are asking us for a change. We need to listen to their souls. And that's why we're offering this training right now in 2021.
Yes, yes, yes. I could not agree more. Yes, this is fantastic. And I'm going to, let me turn on my video for a minute. I want to make sure the quality is good enough, and the lighting's a little low here, but this is so fantastic. Thank you, Verdaluz, so much for offering this. And I'm really honored to share it through Sacred Planet. And I want to share a little bit about something that happened while we've been here in Egypt. Was this bigger idea, right? This bigger plan for what's happening here, and this is just the beginning. So we had been to a temple called Abydos here in Egypt, and we were driving back to the hotel from that temple, and this idea came through, and Verdaluz and I talked about this together, that for Sacred Planet to feature these teachers and really bring you all this paradigm shifting information that's going to help us all together to change the world, right? Help us all together to build the new world. And so then, we talked about this particular topic, and Verdaluz wanted to share it right away. And we know it's so important, right? So as part of this, we're really excited to announce that part of the download here, right? Part of the idea for this bigger vision is, so as far as the investment in the program, we are going to be taking these programs that have a very, very high value, and to be aligned with the Aquarian era that we're entering into, right? To be aligned with the new world that we want to build. We're taking this program that really, this program is definitely worth all of $1,000, $997 or more. And if we were going to offer this at an early bird price, it would be $597, right? But we want to make this available to all of you on a donation basis. And so this is part of this bigger picture vision, right? To make this very available to everybody. Now, it's important, of course, if you want to join, when you make your donation, to really feel the amount to send the amount that feels aligned for your heart and soul, right? And we know there are a lot of you out there that might have had a reduction in income or financial difficulties, especially in 2020 and 2021, although hopefully this year it's getting better. And so we really want to make this available to all of you. And we hope that those who can pay it forward, who do have the funds, will pay the full value of the course or whatever feels right for you, so that others can then pay less and everybody can benefit. Now, this donation-based offer is available until February 4th. And let me just take a second and put this link to the program in the chat so that you all can jump over and join now if you are feeling called. So here is the link to join. And if you go, hold on one second. If you go to this page, you'll see everything that was just presented. You'll see the full curriculum. You'll see all of this additional information to help you make your decision about whether to join the program. and you'll see the investment part here. So if you want to join now, you can just click on this donate button and go ahead and join. Registration closes on February 4th, so be sure to decide by then. That's a week and a day from now. Now there's also another level here. Okay, so for the donation, for whatever amount you might want to donate, you can join and attend all the live class sessions and receive all the insights, all the downloads for those 6 amazing modules. But we know that some of you might want an even higher level of support right now. And so we have a couple of upgraded options for you to choose. Instead of the donation, you could choose one of these if you want this higher level of support. Okay, so for the level 1 upgrade, and that is over here on the left side when you come down the page, if you choose this level 1 upgrade, your family's birth charts will be included during the live teaching across 1 or more classes. Okay, so you will be learning in real time as you attend the class how these astrological principles can be applied specifically for your family members and for your family dynamic. So we have 10 spaces available for this level 1, and this is at 444. Okay. And then if you want an even higher level and more customized and personalized support, if you choose this level 2 upgrade here on the right side of the page, you will receive level 1 automatically, but you will also receive a 90-minute one-on-one session with Verdeluz. You can schedule this at your convenience, where you'll get customized coaching to understand your family's unique needs and really align your collective journey, support you through the challenges that you might be experiencing, and understand so much more about each other's birth charts. So there are 10 spaces available for level 2. Okay, so combining level 1 and level 2, we have a max of 20 spaces available for the upgraded option. Now we do expect these to fill quickly. So if you want one of these upgraded options, be sure to join soon. And if you don't want to do the upgrade and you know you want to go ahead and donate, go ahead and do that now as well. And so from this point on, we can open it up for Q&A in just a minute. We do want to let you all know that we feel this information is just so important to get out to as many people in our extended communities as possible who will be interested, right? So parents, grandparents, educators, anyone who is interested in the future of our children, education, parenting. So please feel free to share the link to this page, or once the webinar comes out, feel free to forward the webinar replay to anyone who you think may be interested. We really, as you can see, we're letting people, we want people to join regardless of financial situation, right? We want to do this donation basis. So we hope you'll share this far and wide. And here's an adorable picture to close on of a proud big sister. So with that, we can open it up for Q&A for any questions that you all have. And Verdeluz, did you want to share any last notes here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to offer this finally. And there's going to be like some really special components too that, we're going to have here. We're going to have a guest lecture at one point in the training who has built an entire curriculum and basically an entire school over the last 2 decades. So I can't wait to share that with the community. So there'll be like a little bonus item there. And there's just so much to share. I wish I could look at every family's charts and all the classes, but there's just going to be too many people joining. And so I do hope people will consider, if you're really called to get some of that more personalized work, to upgrade to level 1 or level 2. And level 2, of course, will be the one-on-one coaching sessions with the family. And we can just take the real deep dive together, and we'll schedule those as soon as possible. But it's going to be a really powerful journey, and I'm just so excited. So yeah, thank you for this time today. Thank you for considering joining this program, and I'm really looking to forward to serving everyone, and it just emphasize too that I really want to teach this course in a very experiential way. And that's why, we are going to be pulling up charts from the very beginning. And I will show you, even if you don't do level 1, how to pull up a chart and see what the moon sign is of your child or your Mercury sign. But when I'm going into like descriptions and explanations and, really exploring the families, those will be those who are in the level 1 or level 2 while we're in the classes together. And we'll go deeper into those, So again, donate what you can, what you feel really called to. Consider paying it forward so that other families who are not in the position can really, benefit from this material. And please share it. Even if it's not right for you right now, please share it with, a couple families you feel like are really needing this. Maybe it's your brother or sister and their family. Just spread the word. We really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's go to Q&A here, and we have a few questions in the chat that we can address. A lot of people are asking if there will be a recording of the class sessions. So yes, absolutely. We will record all of the class sessions. They'll probably be between 90 minutes to 2 hours long, I would say, possibly a little over 2 hours sometimes. There's a lot to share in each of these modules. And we will, if you can't make it to any of the sessions, don't worry, you'll get the recording very soon afterwards. So that will not be a problem for you.
There will be,
And let's see.
Katrina, a webinar of today. Yes, there'll be a replay of today's webinar. And that's what we invite you to share, with friends, family members that you think could benefit from it, please.
And there was a question earlier, Verdeluz, about do we need to be familiar with astrology in order to join? Could you speak a little bit about that?
This is for brand new. You can be newbies to astrology, or you can have a lot of insight, It's for anyone across the spectrum, but you don't have to have any astrological background, Again, it's going to be our basis of the language, but again, we're gonna be in dialogue with each other. I really want to hear from all the families that are participating in this, what you're struggling with, what your pain points are, what you'd like to, your ideal situations in your family. And we're going to use every week and some of those tools that we mentioned to get you there, to get you to the places that your family, your family can be at as a harmonious unit of evolution on this planet at this time.
And someone is asking, my daughter, age 16, has many planets retrograde. Will this be explained?
Will this be explained? I mean, that's a question you could ask if you're going into maybe the first level. Sorry, I didn't see who, Munira. Yeah, hi, Munira. We can ask some of those questions. We'll have Q&A every class. Again, we'll have the class focus. And then if there's some other, some time for different questions like that, right? Or if you want to join at the higher level, we can sit and go very deep into the retrograde planets and the entire charts, right? The entire chart of you and her, whoever else in the family. So, yeah. And, probably after these 2 months, there will be some space and time to create more one-on-one work. But this is this focused program. And again, like I said, we will be building into human design as well. In a later training. This is going to be focused more on the astrology to really help you systematically use that with your family, not to overwhelm you, but to use enough of these tools in a very practical way. So I'll be giving you, practices to do with all the different signs, with all the different planets, as we talk about them, that are pertaining in a real world way to the children and to the family.
Okay. And Annie said, what a great idea using the charts of participants to teach it. So yes, that's what we're going to do, Annie. That will be very experiential learning, and the parents in the class will learn so much as we go. Now, people are asking if they need to come in with their family members' charts, or where should we pull the charts ahead of time, but that won't be needed, right?
No, well, of course, if you have that material, great, but we'll be sending out some information about how to pull up the chart early. I'll probably send a video on how to do that um, before we join the class, the first class, and then you'll be set. You'll have the charts in front of you. I can take any questions in the first class. The first class will probably run a little bit longer so we can work out any of those challenges, but I'll show you exactly where to go online to pull up a chart. And then the people who have joined at the level 2 or level 3, I will have all of those charts. I guess level 1, level 2, but I will have all of those charts. I will have pulled all of those up, and then we'll be looking at them in the classes. And then Nicole is asking, can we donate an amount now that works and then donate more later?
Yes, and I just put an answer in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. If if you would like to give more, but you can't give more right at this moment, give what you can now, absolutely. And you can send more later when you're ready. We greatly appreciate your donation, and yeah, just want you to send what feels aligned for you, heart and soul, right now.
Yeah, the goal is to create really high value for everyone involved in this, whatever level you're at. And so, please donate from your heart. Nancy, I'm not sure when you're saying, do you have dates and times available now? Do you mean the date of each class? Because it's written on the site. I'm not sure exactly what that question is about, but just clarify that.
The dates and times are here. Okay, so the classes will be held on Thursdays at 1 p.m. New York time. And if you scroll down on the page here, you'll see February 18th is class 1, February 25th is class 2, and so on. There is a break, so we have February 18th, 25th, and then March 4th, and then there's a 1-week break before the last 3 classes. So the 4th one will be March 18th, and so on. So yeah, any other questions, anybody? We're happy to answer your questions.
Oh, I love that, Manira. Yeah. So is this helpful for teens who are choosing their career paths? Yes. There's another version of me that's teaching in high schools right now and teaching astrology and mythology. Maybe I'll do that someday. Um, but but this is kind of a way of doing that right now. I really believe that the high school generation, from 14 on, they can get all of this stuff, but especially for parents as a working language with that age, what a way to connect that, you can get some objectivity. You can help focus each other together. And, some of you might know I do astrolocality. I've helped a lot of families and kids choose the best places to go to college, to go to university based off of their locational astrology, so we can go to that level of it, right? Or if we should take a year off, right? Or if we should, you know, focus on a certain subject matter, right? The chart is speaking to all of that, right? So, and again, those who do it the higher level will be talking a lot more about forecasting, but I will mention a few things about forecasting in the 5th class, where we talk about rites of passage. All right. Yeah, Kat, that's maybe a bigger question, but yeah, we'll address, you know, maybe we could talk about that some other time. But yes, I believe there's neurodiversity in the crystal generation for sure. If certain weeks cannot be attended, will there be ways? Yes, everything's recorded, like we said. So you don't have to be live if you miss a class.
Yep, completely okay if you can't attend all the sessions. We will get you the recording always within 24 to 48 hours after the class ends, as soon as we can. We will get it out to you and you can just watch the recording and catch up.
And in the back end of the site, there's you can have your feedback. Jocelyn, you can speak to this, but about the community that's there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so the way that this is hosted is on an online course platform on Sacred Planet Academy, where we have, discussion groups there. So you'll be welcomed into the community for this class. You'll be welcome to post an introduction if you would like to and get to know the other attendees. And then whenever we post a class, there will be space for comments and discussion. And so it can get very lively in there. We have lots of, people engaging and commenting on their experience of that module. And so you can ask questions in there too, even if you couldn't attend live, you could ask a question in the discussion. So it's lots of ways to communicate with us and get what you need. Oh, that's great, Colin. Colin says it was meant to be. In the last month, I was thinking of having the family charts done. And I've also been thinking of the amazing vibration you're sending out and wondering how I could support it. Even wondering about the sacred number. Wow, amazing. So yes, you found what you were needing here. That's fantastic, Colin. Thank you for sharing that experience. I love the synchronicities.
And just if people are considering one of the higher investments, just I really want to invite you to consider, the cost of education, private education. And think about all of the, I know Jocelyn and I both talked about this, and I know I felt like there was a lot of wasted years, really, like in college, in even in high school, right? And even growing up, like so much maybe that didn't it didn't land for us. It wasn't about how we learned. It was rote memory, and it's just like how much could you learn in such a short period of time to like efficiently apply this with your kids and your family. That investment will really go the distance. I can't even just like a single reading is so powerful to learn about your child, let alone a 6-week training or training with the reading. So I just really invite people to consider that the value of that, and that it could really help with a lot of decision making on, what comes next about going back to schools, or working in a village context, working with other families, working with kids, um, more one-on-one with a mentor. I mean, there's so many options now, and that's what I want to get into. That's why I feel this program has waited till now, because I've wanted to teach it for years, but it feels like now is when we really need it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Now is the time. Now is the time. As parents, so much has changed in just the last year and a half. It's incredible. So we really need it. Irma is asking, will it address children with special needs? And yeah, I mean, astrology is going to be very all inclusive of everybody. There's not, not even any reason to separate children with special needs or not, right? Would you agree, Verdeluz?
Yes, and I'd love to address that specifically in the different classes, how we apply that to special needs, and then what that even means right now, because a lot of times even things like ADD, ADHD that we've used as labels, it's actually just about the elements of the chart being honored, right? Sometimes those kids have a ton of fire in their chart and they just need to move that energy. They can't sit in the classroom all the time. And there's simple ways of approaching how to do that, through through different practices, through different play. And we just need to reorient ourselves around this and not just label things we don't understand, but give some new possibilities.
Yeah, and I really believe so many of these kids coming in now, as we see increased numbers of autism in recent years, that these kids
Yeah.
have special gifts, right? They're more connected spiritually. They're more connected in different ways that past generations haven't even fully understood yet. So that can be honored in the astrology as well. Let's see. So Munira is saying, is there a recommended donation? And yes, it's a new approach. I don't think you'll see this approach many other places. It's something that's been really powerfully coming through for us here at Sacred Planet. So The recommended donation, I would say, is if you can, give the early bird price as we've listed it, that is what we most strongly recommend. So as you can see here, the regular price is $9.97. The early bird price is $5.97. So, the course, it has this very high value. So if you can give that, that's fantastic. You will receive so much value for that. If you can't give that amount, then give what feels right to you. So that's why we want to leave it open, because we don't want anyone to be excluded who really wants to be a part of this. But we don't want you to be excluded based on finances. Much bigger things going on here than just the money part. Let's see. Okay.
Victoria, once you join the class, I will share with you more about some books and things. Definitely my first book, Codex of the Soul, will be very important because there's a whole big section. The third part of it is dedicated to rites of passage, different ages, different life cycles. And it has a huge section on the signs, planets, the houses. And it's really going to be a helpful tool for everyone involved. And once I'm back home, I'll be able to send copies of that out to the students. So I can make those recommendations once we're closer to the start date.
Okay, everyone. Well, I think we need to close soon here. Thank you all so much for joining and being a part of this call today. I hope you've learned so much just during the free call, and hope you'll also join us for the class, because we're going to go so much deeper into these topics. I'm going to put the link one more time in the chat to check out, learn more about the course, join the course when you're ready. Remember that registration closes on February 4th. So be sure to make your decision by then. And of course, we'll be sending emails. We'll send this replay out. We'll send emails letting you know more details about the course during the time between now and the 4th. But if you're feeling the call, join right away. You can become part of the community, start meeting the other students right away, and we can get you the starting materials sooner. So go ahead and join as soon as you know. And yeah, we're really excited, just so excited to offer.
Yeah, this is a huge part. This is something that I'm really all about too. I want families to connect with each other, so when you meet each other in the community, when you're seeing, we're talking charts, like I feel like, again, this is Aquarian, the more we can support each other, the more we can see each other, network with each other. We all have tools that we all need. We just don't sometimes know each other yet. And that's part of any training that we're a part of. You get to be a part of a community. And that's what's so valuable with this training too, is you're involved with the community of conscious parents who are here to evolve the planet. I mean, we all know that the evolution of the planet is about the parents knowing themselves, choosing to evolve their families. And I want to acknowledge everyone for jumping on this call, and for whoever chooses to be a part of this training, because you're really on the threshold of consciousness and the evolution of the planet. And that is the revolution. It's conscious parenting.
Absolutely.
Love to you all. Blessings from you, Jeff. Namaste. Wishing you all the best. I hope to see you in class very soon.
Yes, blessings, everybody. Lots of love. Mwah.